Even if you aren't a fan of the m.a.s.h TV series, this is still probably a fairly familiar face to you. For 11 seasons, Alan Alda played Captain Benjamin Franklin Hawkeye Pierce, a civilian doctor drafted into the Korean War. So during the mid-70s, m.a.s.h was one of the most popular shows on television. In fact, I'll go out on a limb and say it was beloved. There were so many things that this show had going for it. First and foremost, Alan Alda and the rest of the cast, well, they were great. But it was more than just that. The creative team led by Larry Gelbart was top-notch, and the scripts that the actors were being given allowed them to shine, regardless of whether the role was a big one or a small one. Over the course of the show's 11 seasons, m.a.s.h was nominated for a Golden Globe in the category of Best Television Series, Comedy or Musical in 1973, 1977, 1980, 81, 82, and 83. And beyond the awards and accolades, the show was, from a ratings perspective, one of the most successful television programs in American history. So with all that said, there are those who feel that the show was nearly unwatchable during its final seasons, and quite frequently their fingers are pointing in Alan Alda's direction when asked for a reason why they feel that way. Never mind that the showrunners for the series were actually Larry Gelbart, Gene Reynolds, and Burt Metcalf. For whatever reason, folks like to blame Alda for the show's shift in tone. Probably because Alda ended up writing 18 episodes of the series and directed nearly twice that many over the show's run. But you know, m.a.s.h was never really meant to be a knee-slapping comedy. It's one of the things that drew Alan Alda to the show in the first place. And even during those early seasons, producers Gelbart and Reynolds, they knew that they wanted the show to be something more. It's why they fought to not have a laugh track on the show. It's a battle that they lost here in the US, but their willingness to forgo that laugh track really demonstrates that early on m.a.s.h wanted to be funny in a genuine way, which in turn, Gelbart and Reynolds believed, would lend itself to moments of great drama and occasional tragedy, such as the death of Colonel Blake at the end of Season 3. You know, that whole episode was really hilarious, and there's that moment towards the end where Blake inspects the troops one last time. It's just so good, and then it happens. There's that final scene where you find out that Henry is dead. The whole moment is surreal and understated, and everyone continues to frantically work on in the OR, even though devastating news about their friend has arrived. It was a moment of absolute subtle genius, and something that later seasons could have used a bit more of. But still, there was a lot of change going on in the 4077th. Quite frankly, a lot of change that Alda had no control over. In addition to McLean Stevenson leaving, you've got Wayne Rogers, who decided to walk away, and as a result, Trapper John was replaced by Mike Farrell's B.J. Honeycutt. And even more painful for me was the departure of Larry Linville a couple of seasons later. David Ogden Stairs' Major Winchester was a suitable replacement, but he was never the comic foil and partner in crime with Hot Lips Houlihan, the way that Frank Burns was. And then there was Gary Berghoff's departure around Season 8. This was probably the toughest one for me personally, since I loved that character. And there must have been a lot of folks that felt the same way that I did, because they didn't even try to replace him. Potter seemed grumpier after Radar left, and getting back to Hawkeye, he seemed worn down and angrier than before. So with all the cast member changes, along with show producers who never really wanted the program to be a knee-slapping yuck fest of a comedy, and a lead actor in Alan Alda who truly recognized that this show was capable of making a mark on television history unlike any other show that had preceded it, is it any surprise that m.a.s.h's final seasons really pushed the envelope when it came to topics and overall tone of those episodes? Alan has talked at length in a number of videos that you can find right here on YouTube about his aspirations for the show while they were making it. And you know what? Even though my favorite seasons of m.a.s.h are still the first 3, I agree with him that the show needed to progress and develop, and that the tone of the show's voice, needed to mature and become more serious during those final years. Alda is known for saying that one must be brave enough to live creatively. With m.a.s.h, especially during those final seasons, his writing, his direction took the show to places that I don't think many of us saw it going during those first few seasons. His impact on the show was enormous, and I would challenge those folks like myself who enjoy the first few seasons the most to really reflect upon whether or not we would have wanted all 11 seasons of m.a.s.h. to be like the first 3. I would not. There are only a handful of shows that had a real positive impact on my life, and m.a.s.h. is one of them. Episode after episode, I was forced to reflect upon ideas and beliefs that I had previously thought to have been foregone conclusions. The show didn't always change my mind, and I didn't always agree with every point made. But Alan Alda and his character Hawkeye helped me to be a better man and to respect people more. And really, what more could I have asked for? m.a.s.h. was without doubt one of the best things on TV, whether you're talking about Season 1 or Season 11. So that's it. What do you think? Do you agree with me that Alan Alda's impact on m.a.s.h. was a positive one? Or do you wish the show had stuck with the more comedic tone of the first few seasons? Let me know in the comment section, and while you're at it, I'd love a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and I would be absolutely honored if you would consider subscribing to my channel. I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.